Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Randall from Randall's ESL Cyber Listening Lab, providing tips on language learning, culture, and human development. And today we have a number of voices from around the world that are going to be sharing their ideas on tips for teaching listening. For teaching grammar. Of course, we can teach grammar and listening together, of course. And throughout this broadcast, each teacher will have about 5 or 6 minutes to share their ideas, and the other attendees that are part of this broadcast will be sharing questions and so forth. I will try to read those out. Don't hesitate. We hope that you enjoy this opportunity of sharing your voice, and if in the future you'd like to participate in such a broadcast, please let me know. So let's just go ahead and begin. We're going to be talking about grammar. And one of the things that I don't know if any of you, feel free, any of you that are participating today, when you think of the word grammar, what feeling comes to mind? Not as a teacher, but as a language learner. Feel free to share, anyone.
I think rules. Applying rules.
So Mesa is from the United Arab Emirates. What do you mean cruel? I mean,
no, not cruel. I mean rules.
Oh, rules. Well, some rules can be cruel, I think.
Of course.
Right. So what do you mean, Mesa, by rules?
I mean how to apply them, because you know that students are usually afraid of applying rules because each rule might have exceptions. That's why I think students are always nervous when we teach them grammar and rules. They do not like to follow rules. This is the problem with them.
Yeah, and I think, Macy, I think that's a great idea. And especially as a teacher, if a student says, well, does this grammar always follow this rule? And you say, well, usually. And usually is kind of like if I were to say to my family, I love you usually, it can be an uncomfortable feeling. So yes, rules. Anyone else? Any general thoughts before we jump into some of the teaching ideas?
Yes, can I intervene?
Yes,
for me, grammar, yeah, thank you. Grammar for me is when you find the link between 3 things: the form, the meaning, and the use. It all goes together. Otherwise, grammar would be boring, decontextualized, and things get wrong with the students if they don't find the link between the 3 parts of it. Right. So if you want to say grammar, you need form, you need meaning, and you need use.
Absolutely.
That is for me.
Great, thank you. And any other comment? Nazreen, Carlina, Josue?
I would use the word frustrating.
Frustrating. like those cruel rules.
Exactly, because every time I teach grammar, now I teach adults. So I'll give the rule, we'll practice, and then I'll say, except, this is the rule, except for these 50 words that you now have to memorize in your free time, which a lot of people, that is very frustrating because what do you mean it's a rule except for these 50 words?
Yeah, and that could be really frustrating as well. Well, great. Well, the purpose of today is to share some ideas on teaching grammar. And so we're going to start with Mesa. Mesa is from the United Arab Emirates. So can you just tell us a little bit about some of your thoughts today? When I saw this nightmare grammar, tell us a little bit about this, and then we'll go on to some of your ideas.
Okay. Now, from my own experience while teaching, you know that I have a 17-year experience in teaching. I started teaching in 2002. From my own experience, I noticed that the vast majority of students are afraid of the grammar class. That's why I decided to change some of my routine while teaching grammar. I used to teach grammar in special classes. I mean, special lesson for grammar, special lesson for listening, for reading. But what I noticed was that the students were really not into grammar a lot. That's why I decided to take another plan. I decided to teach it together with other skills. Now, as you can see from in the other slide, I decided using the teaching grammar while I was teaching reading comprehension. Now, how to do that was like the following. For example, if I want to teach, let me say, passive voice, I write a reading comprehension text, because you know that sometimes it's very difficult to find a reading comprehension text, including the grammar rules that you want to teach. That's why I used to write my own reading comprehension texts, including the pieces of grammar that I want to teach. Now, while my students were doing their reading comprehension questions, I asked them to just look at me and answer, or we decide to discuss things that are related to this reading comprehension text. I choose the specific, I choose a specific sentence, and I ask them about the rule in it. After discussing it and saying whether it's wrong or right, I then show them the correct grammar rule. And then we can move to examples. We can move to, I can support their knowledge with worksheets, with exercises, and then they can go back and answer the reading comprehension.
Okay.
So this is a good idea, because they will not notice that they are studying grammar. They can study it like something, let me say, aside from the course.
And I think if I
And
could just jump right in here, you know, when you were talking about reading, I mean, I know that a lot of people, maybe a lot of children, might be sitting down to breakfast, maybe have a box of cereal in front of them, and maybe in some cases they can read not just, you know, academic work, but actually, you know, things in comic strips, things on a cereal box and so forth.
exactly, yes. And it happens with me, with my children. Sometimes they ask me, why did they say rich in vitamins and not rich with vitamins?
Yeah, good point.
Exactly, yes. The other thing that I usually use in order to teach grammar is using the listening activities. Also, while my students are listening to some audios, I deliberately pause the audio and ask them, did you hear that? The speaker says this, why? So after making some kind of discussion and argument, I show them or I give them the correct answer. And when they are done with their listening activity, I go back to the grammar rule that was mentioned in the audio and illustrate it to them and support it with extra examples and worksheets. So these two things, I think they help me a lot, because as I said, students will never notice that they are learning those boring grammar lessons.
Yeah, and right now, yeah, thank you. And Carolina says a wonderful way to connect ideas. Josue says a good idea to introduce grammar topics. So making those connections, I think those are great ideas that are coming up right now. Nezreen says also love listening activities of making those connections.
Okay. And the third thing that I use is also using videos and YouTubes. You know that students are bored, or if they are all the time listening to their teacher explaining, especially when it comes to grammar. That's why I used to show them some videos, because you know that they will listen to somebody else explaining the grammar rules for them. Sometimes I pause the video in order to ask them some questions, because they might not be with me all the time. If they are watching, they might dream elsewhere and they might be distracted with something. That's why I pause the video for a few minutes and ask them things that are related to what they saw in the video. Also, the fourth thing is using LinkedIn SlideShare. My advice to all teachers is to try this LinkedIn SlideShare, because it's really helpful, and it also we can say saves the teacher's time, because you know that sometimes you might be you might not find time in order to prepare your own PowerPoint presentations and presentations if you want to explain something. That's why if you use SlideShare, it will help you a lot, because everything is ready for you. All what you have to do is just to write the name of the grammar rule that you want to study, And
Oh.
you will find in this website, you will find lots of useful things, not only about grammar and not only about teaching language, but also about art, mathematics, business. So the slides are divided into education, business, art, and you can find a lot of amazing things, either PowerPoint presentations or videos. So I think everybody should start using this kind of website because it's really helpful for English teachers.
Okay,
And
great. Thank
that's
you
all.
very much. And Josue was asking, you mentioned about SlideShare, but with LinkedIn, how does that function specifically? How are they different, LinkedIn and SlideShare?
Because if you have LinkedIn account, they will ask you to use your LinkedIn account in order to log into the SlideShare.
Okay.
Or you can make your own account. If you do not have an account on LinkedIn, I think you can make your own account.
Okay.
And you can also share your own slides. You can participate by publishing your own slide shares about anything or any topic that you are interested in. Last week, I shared one about the use of hyperbole because I was teaching my students this kind of figurative language form, hyperbole. I made one and I posted it to SlideShare so that any
Right.
teacher can use it.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Mesa. And one of the things going back to Carolina says they are very colorful and creative, some of those presentations. And the one thing I like about YouTube, they are constantly making changes to their settings for speed control. In the past with YouTube, you only could adjust the speed back control by 25% increments. Like you could slow it down to 75% to 50%. But more recently, in the settings, so if you have a YouTube video and you're watching it, now you have more variable speed control. If you're watching, as Mesa said, some type of video and you want to slow it down 95%, 90%, you have that ability as well. So I think that combines those type of techniques. So thank you thank you, Mesa, for sharing those ideas. Great.
Thanks, Randall. Thank you.
All right, Sausen.
Hi. Okay, Mesa was talking, I think. Yeah, I like your ideas, Mesa, and I certainly agree with your resources, let's say. I just wonder, one small question. Do you find ready-made ones? You can use very at ease?
Are you saying ready-made presentations in SlideShare? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Can you find ready-made ones that you can use very at ease?
Yes, you can. You can find, of course, you can find everything related to everything, not only English, but also other domains and other fields of education.
Wow, it saves time. It saves time and energy, you know?
Exactly. Yes, of course, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
I will try them, hopefully.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Davis. So teaching grammar in my country is also taught in an integrated way. We usually don't set a grammar aside, no. It's usually inserted during another skill, like listening, like reading, like what you said. But here in my presentation, I'd like to say that since the purpose of I just wanted to see the screen. Yeah, since the purpose of education is to give learners the experience that will help them explore real-world problems, mainly, and solve challenges which they will face in the future. And since they have to acquire life skills and simultaneously grow into a successful adult or a citizen for the future, I opted for a rather active way to teach grammar. So yes, rules are important for me, but at the same time, I'd rather develop many other skills. And the main, skill which I have to teach my students, it's let's say the digital literacy. Students for me have to know grammar rules, but at the same time use technology, for example. And for this reason, they can either present grammar rules or practice or produce. Yes, that's where I am talking. So they can use grammar during the 3 stages, but as a form of a product at the end. For example, I can talk about small videos students can produce about the past simple. I took some screenshots where you see there. Yes, I can handle the screen or no?
No,
No.
no. Do you want me
No,
to go
fine.
on to the next slide or?
No, fine.
Okay.
So on the first, part, I have some screenshots of a video prepared by, it's a small animation. Some students prepare, for example, consolidation of the past simple.
This
They
one right
have to
up here, is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
These 2 and the 2 next. And of course, when they produce the videos and share in front of their friends, they just internalize the rules. They will learn, implicitly. And this is a very good example with beginners. Usually, they feel much more stressful when they produce something. And of course, this makes them feel like responsible, mature, to give the content. And this content should be reliable and not any content. This is the first example. The second example is also creating websites. And I have this one on the right up. Yes,
This one right
that's
here?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a screen capture of our site where we talked about bullying, where we wrote stories, scenarios, we posted videos, and this is the second one, the down one,
Okay.
where you have breaking news. I have my students, performing a show, and they posted the show on YouTube. So all this, for me, should be developed in the students at the same time as, grammatical rules or communicative functions or vocabulary development too. So for me, it all goes together. That is for the first, idea.
Yeah, and that's great, if I may. And thank you, Sausan. We're going to continue on with your ideas, but you're saying that you're using grammar as the vehicle to discuss other things.
Yes, true. And at the same time, make the students active learners. They have to construct knowledge, and this knowledge should be digital, because we need this skill in the future. And at the same time, they need an audience. It's like real life. So
Great.
they have to produce something that should be shared with people. Okay,
Super.
that was the first.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, another idea is that grammatical structures, I can see. I have a conversation, just box. So I have the other idea that grammatical structures not only have forms that are separate, no. These forms are related to meaning, and the meaning should be in a special use. And I am having here an activity as an example concerning road safety, where we learn obligation, prohibition, and warning. Yeah, I chose to invite an association, it's a road security association in class, where we watched or discussed shocking videos about accidents and the causes of accidents, and then let the students themselves express how they feel and even talk about their experiences. Anyone who lost someone or who had an accident has to speak. And when they speak, they retell personal information, which makes them involved, more involved. And then as a second step, the Road Association asked them to prepare logos and road signs in order to sensitize others. And of course, this is, the second, the one in the middle.
Oh, the middle. Oh, okay. You're saying in the
Yeah.
middle at the top, is that right?
Right, right.
Okay, great.
That is an example where the students use three languages: English, Arabic, and Tunisian. English, French, and Tunisian Arabic. And this flyer, yeah, it's a flyer, three languages, which they should give to people outside the school. So we had a meeting with the association, a second meeting, where you see the one on the left. Yeah. So you see our class with some road signs. Yeah, the one down. Okay.
The one right down here?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
Mhm.
After we met with our signs, we went out to the street and we distributed some flyers to the drivers, to the pedestrians, and told them how dangerous road accidents are.
Great.
We also took a selfie after we finished. It means we enjoyed the experience. After all, school is some fun, isn't it? Okay, that was my activity.
Great.
Yeah, where we always have to think. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Good.
thank you so much. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to, Sausan, I'd like to, you mentioned a little bit, this was the topic of bullying. Is that correct? Was this?
The second one, yeah, it's the same activity.
Okay.
It's road safety. Yeah, it's the
okay.
same activity. Yeah. It's a follow-up. I have to say that this activity was a partnership with someone called Mrs. I think Miss Sohaila from Jordan. She had to give the same, performance with her students, but maybe the difference, they invited a policeman, right? And they explained the same. So why do I mention this? Because this, activity provides the students with an opportunity to engage in real world problems, and it's their problem every day. So every day they are concerned with their safety while going to school or going back home, and they have to apply solutions. How to make people aware about the danger of accidents. This was their task, and they really did it well because they felt engaged after all.
And let me bring in, if I may, now, Sen, if I may bring in our guest today. There were a few comments that were brought in, and Nesreen talked about the languages used on it and so forth. And I want to ask those that are here, Sausan was giving an example of how to use language, grammar, practicing on form and use in the classroom. And I'm interested in hearing your voices. What are the type of projects that all of you have done in trying to use English as a vehicle to sharing a message? Anyone? Carolina, Mesa, Nesreen, Jose. Yes.
Yeah,
Just
you have
anyone.
to choose one. You have to choose
Okay.
one.
I'll just say Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have an example? We're going to go on and Sausan, thank you very much for sharing those. I want to bring in some other voices. What are some examples in addition to what you've seen? I think that was a very creative project that you did, Sausan, and I'm interested in hearing what other teachers have done to use English as a vehicle.
Well, I work with children. I work with university students, and I work with children, and there are particular lessons that help us bring to life some ideas like ecology or helping the environment, which is the one that I encourage the most. So in the class, we can reflect how to promote taking care of the environment and things like that. And they say, "Oh, teacher, what if we do this?" They are like giving me examples, and I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. So they create posters. They have created like things for pets made out of plastic. They feed animals that are running in the street that have no home. So I think that they get something touched, like an emotion, and they promote projects like that. But they always propose them themselves. and
Great.
I create them based on their needs and on their energy.
Great. Nazreem, Josue, any other thoughts on that? Again, Sausen was talking about different projects that she's done. Any other thoughts?
I
Yes, go ahead, Josue.
All right. Well, there's something similar I did with my students, just like Carolina said, and we were studying like Unit 6, in high school, and it's related or it's all about the environment. So we were talking about pollution specifically. So during the class, we were like discussing about different things, and I was teaching them vocabulary related to it. Then I came up with an idea and I told them, all right, so why don't we do like an oral presentation and we talk about this, like with, what kind of things we can do in order for us to help the environment with pollution. So students came up with very good ideas. They actually did some things like made of other things like recycled materials. They did some, for example, trash cans and then all flower pots as well made of bottles. So it was a good experience for us because besides using the language, they were also helping the institution. So that's something that we did with our students.
Great. So similar, talking about the environment. Sausen was talking about public safety. And Nazreem, any other thoughts on this before we go on?
Well, I wonder if it's maybe because my students are adults, maybe that this, their situation in life is a little different. My students are not interested in creating things. I've tried. They like talking about things.
Okay.
So things like, how to speak to a police officer, if someone tries to steal your car, conversations and using grammar in that sense, they love to do. They love talking or, trying to have those conversations. But unfortunately, I don't have the joy of creating like things like visuals for them, like with them, because they don't want to. We've tried things such as like games, and they go, we don't want to play games. We want to talk. We want to, we want to learn grammar, but in a real world sense. And it might be because my students are adults in America. So I think my situation might be a little bit different, but I love all of your ideas. Those sound like fun.
So in other words, just being aware of your audience, their particular needs, and asking them what they want and being responsive to say, oh, I don't think they're interested in this, but maybe I need to redirect to do something else. I think that's really good. Okay, let's now go on. There was, Sausen, there was one other thought that you had, and that was this particular slide that you had as well. Could you just wrap that up and share some of these things if you haven't already?
Okay, this activity is, okay, these are different activities. And the first one on the left is a questionnaire. They have to, my students, after studying in class about bullying, students have to carry out a questionnaire outside with other students. And of course, they have to listen and write the answers. And of course, this was a great experience because they have to speak English outside. And happily they did it well. Another one, it's the one after, students have to sign a pledge or make a promise. For example, to curb bullying, I promise to be an upstander and try to help anyone who is bullied and participate in clubs and do my best to help stop bullying. Everyone should have a different pledge. I just took an example. And of course, they have to keep true to their words. Happily they get involved or they join clubs and campaigns too. And this makes them active learners. Mm-hmm. And the next picture, it's a list of pictures. Yeah, this is from gallery, from my phone.
Is this down here at the bottom? Okay, great.
Yeah. This was a very creative idea. I took, it's the whole set of pictures. It's a very creative idea when you connect with other, subjects, mainly arts. Miss Sonia, my arts colleague, suggested we work together on the topic of climate change. And that's why she asked a task from the same students that we have
Okay.
to design or to draw the cry where they have to make a big cry, but this cry should be with the theme of climate change. Of course,
Okay.
I should have taken one example, but I let you just imagine
No
the
problem.
students working, to carry out a piece of art, to say no to climate change. And of course, they take the pictures they have and make a speech to the world and say no to pollution. This was a very rich experience. I loved art. That's me, trying to help, you know. I was no longer an English teacher. I became interested in arts too. So we really enjoyed the experience, and I
Great.
really advise you to work in an interdisciplinary way. It
Oh.
helps a lot. The students feel the ambience of collaboration between the teachers. Connection becomes stronger. Yeah, can you still hear me?
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you very much. And
You know
that
what?
was. Mhm. Yeah.
I really appreciate these ideas, and I want to bring this back also to Mesa, what Mesa said and what Nazreem said. Mesa was talking earlier a little bit about SlideShare and maybe creating content, maybe using those projects that you're doing, converting them into some types of slides, and then sharing them with other people could be one use of both of those ideas. And then Nazreem, you mentioned something really important too. One of the things I might have in my head, this is the way my lesson is going to go, and nothing is going to stop me. So no matter what my students need, I've spent a lot of time preparing, and it's going to go like this. And I think what you're saying, certainly saying, is when I've worked with adults in the community in the United States, they're working all day. And then in the evening, they just want really functional language skills. You know, maybe they're not interested in doing posters and those type of things, but the same ideas of bringing about awareness of, you know, the environment, of an awareness of being safe, of how to dealing with that police officer when he stops me and I have a broken tail light. What do I say? I think are really important. So balancing that out of using all of these skills, I think is really good. And that's why I'm glad that we're all sharing together. Let's now go on, and thank you everyone so far. Let's go on here to Carolina and talk about some of your ideas, Carolina.
So, hello, good morning from Mexico, my beautiful country. So, a lot of things that I loved your ideas. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that what you are doing is not only teaching English, but also like creating this consciousness about I am an adult and I am taking responsible decisions. So you are the language is just your way of connecting with them, but the ideas and the helpful things you promote to society are a complete other thing, and that's wonderful that I am taking so many notes.
Great.
So when I started teaching, well, I am a young teacher. When I started, I could
Now we're
see that-
all young. We're all young. We're all young.
but especially since everyone looks at you like, oh my god, she's unexperienced and she's so avant-garde and she's trying new things. So I took advantage of those things, and I like to create a very dynamic and fun environment in my class. I like to connect with my students, and we are facing such a challenge as teachers that that young people right now are like, oh, going to the park, no thank you. Oh, I could be playing with my Xbox, or you know what, like going to another place, no thank you. I'll be texting my boyfriend or my girlfriend. I don't need to go outside. And especially now with the pandemic that has forced us to create new ways to encourage our students. And there is one problem that everyone has with online classes, that they are like, oh, the teacher is speaking, and someone wants to participate, silent. Muted mics. Oh, yes, teacher, yes, see you, teacher. That's the only interaction. But I have the fortune that my students love my classes. thanks God. Like I work so hard for them to like them. And I have some tools that are fun and that are engaging and that you can practice grammar with them. Because as Sausen and as Mace said, grammar doesn't have to be boring. Grammar can be integrated with other skills. And in this case, I am just presenting it in a pretty way. We have tool number 1 that is called Bamboozle. And you might be like, what are those things there? They are questions integrated into like we can say that it's a board game, like a board game or like a trivia. They pick a number. They are in teams, so you are promoting collaboration, teamwork, passion. They get so passionate about this game, and they're like, oh, number 5. Number 5 has a question about grammar, and they think, oh my God, this is so cool. And in reality, they are just learning grammar.
Now,
And
just so
they-
you know, and thank you. I just want to interject here. These resources, you're sharing 4 of them. I'm going to make sure that I put these into the notes sent out to people so that they, they are aware of those resources. So Bamboozle. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, Thousand asked. Yeah, it's free. It's free. You can pay the premium version, but to me it has been the same experience as using the normal one.
So you
And
click a number and then like it flips over and then students see a question. Is that kind of how it works?
that's correct.
Okay.
And you already have options to choose from. You have like, oh, I want to teach the simple present. You have one. You have to teach the fruits. There is one for it. You have to teach topic vocabulary for topics such as bullying. You have that as well. So
Great.
you are allowing yourself to be a little bit more relaxed, to be creative, and to be fun in your classroom without
Super.
getting stressed. Next, we have Nearpod. Nearpod, I discovered it like a month ago. I love it so much. This is useful for. Oh yes, Nazarene. We can pick one, and they are already like prepared. You can choose one, and it's perfect. In Nearpod, it's a platform that allows you to engage your student. And the problem that we have is that the students are addicted to their phones. They are, oh, yes, teacher, yes, I am going to reply to this text. But with Nearpod, you are connecting technology and you are sort of closing that opportunity for them. You're like, you are paying attention to my class in a fun way, and you don't need to check anything else.
Great.
Why? If you can see here, I can integrate videos and they can see it in like their phones. They can check it in their phones. I can integrate 3D models. I can integrate virtual reality, games, listenings. That yesterday had the miraculous opportunity to have Mr. Randall in my class, and we were actually practicing with one of his listenings. And you can open like a collaboration board. You can open a lot of things. And the good thing is that they don't feel like they are in a class. They feel like they are in a game or in an opportunity to explore an entire world through your eyes.
Right. So connecting technology and their phones and doing and different activities. And certainly, I think you would agree, Carolina, which each one of these services, whether it be Bamboozle, whether it be Nearpod, you could spend a whole hour talking about each one, but I'm glad that you're introducing those at least a little bit to each one of us. Plickers. Now, I like Plickers. I've used this a lot. So let's talk about this.
Well, thank you. Well, the problem that we have with students is that they are shy and they don't want to say, the answer is letter B. The answer is this. What we can do to promote that feeling of I want to participate, it can be using Plickers. Plickers is a device that just needs a couple of copies with QR codes in them. You can print them, and everyone has a personalized code. If you need 30, if you need 40, you can get them. And you give them the code to your student. They print it out, and they can cover them with plastic or something, and they can use it as like in how can I say, like a task card. But when you present a question, it can be grammar, and you can write like I space a teacher. Is R. And the fun thing about this is that you use the task card in different positions. Like if
Like
they
this
are
is
like this,
A, B, C, D, like multiple choice.
exactly, and you just rotate them. Like you just they don't feel that that shyness of saying, teacher, I don't know the answer. They're going like, no one is going to know. Let's do it, and they love it so much because it's a fun way to do it. Simple. It promotes participation, and they are learning and practicing.
And the nice thing about this is all the teacher needs. Students do not need their own device. They just have this card, and a teacher takes their phone, goes into a Plickers account, creates questions, and then the teacher just scans the cards in the room, and it identifies, oh, the student is choosing the answer A, or they're choosing the answer B. So I think it's a really cool tool. You could have 40, 60 students holding up their cards, and the teacher scans their phone, and it reads which direction they're holding their card to the answer for the question.
That's it.
That's great. And that's certainly worth using where you're in classrooms where everyone doesn't have a phone. The only device is a teacher that has that. Great. And let's talk about printables.
So everyone who knows me, like in my classroom, knows that I love including games. So even if it's a serious topic, or if it's a grammar topic, I like to give them printables or manipulatives, or they can create things, because we are not only teaching grammar in a visual or auditory way, we can teach them in a kinesthetic way. They can participate by playing a game, but in reality, they are practicing speaking, they are practicing reading, they are practicing listening. We are integrating skills without without presenting them as a rude or as a strict way. We can use a board game. We can use speaking cards. We can use strips of sentences to promote the communication between students. Because education doesn't have to be I guess.
So you're saying that this is a website called Printables where you can actually download materials or handouts that people have created. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are like free printables, and the site that I use the most is ISL Collective. I forgot to add it there. I am going to send it to through the chat.
And put it into the chat. Yeah, that would be great.
And
So using different printables, I think, is really important. Let me go ahead and bring everyone in here just real quickly. If I could ask all of you of another online website or resource, just quickly, maybe we can name several that people have found useful. What would they be?
I don't have a site, but I can have a platform.
Okay.
Yeah, Edmodo, for example,
Okay.
if you have an idea. Yeah, it's like a virtual class, but inside you can assign some quizzes or activities to check the students' understanding, and
Okay.
you just program the activity for them, and they answer at home, or the day of the lesson. It all depends on your focus. I tried it, and I really find it very helpful.
Great.
A virtual classroom.
Super. Mesa, Nazreem, any questions, or Josue?
Well, I'd like to just say I love ISL Collective. It's got great worksheets, but what I do like that I use from there a lot is I print out the music worksheets, those that have the blanks, and I'll play on YouTube the song and have
Oh,
my
wow.
students fill in the missing word, and they love it because music kind of brings everyone alive, and
Okay.
it's a great activity. But I do get most of my worksheets. You could make them at home, but ISL Collective already has so many of them done with newer music. So Taylor Swift, for anyone who likes American music, is on there, and the students love it.
Oh, that's a
Ed
great
Sheeran is
idea.
another one the students love. They speak clearly.
Oh, great. Thank you for sharing it as an example of a printable. Josue, Mesa, any last thought before we move on?
I think the organization that is responsible for printing the books of my school have something called Alpha Publishing, ALPH, Alpha Publishing. They provide us with a lot of resources, and I think they have a special website or platform for them.
Did you
I
say
don't know if-
Alpha Publishing? Okay.
Yes,
great.
Alpha Publishing. Yes, Alpha
Okay,
Publishing.
great. Some resources. Josue, any other website or service that you found that could be useful for teaching language?
Actually, just like, you know, Carolina mentioned and
Josue,
that's pretty much a lot of things.
Josue, the connection is not very
Hi.
clear. I'm trying to understand that.
Sorry. Can you listen? Can you listen to me now?
No, no problem. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, all right. Sorry. So like I was saying, the
No,
IELTS
no
Collective,
problem.
that's pretty much the one I use.
Okay. There we
Mhm.
are. There, if there's one website that has been mentioned several times, that's great. Isra,
Yeah, hi everybody.
from
Hi.
United Arab Emirates, a new friend.
Yeah, hi
now
everybody.
we are leaving the last 45 minutes for you to speak.
Sorry for that. Yeah.
No.
Okay. I want to add something. ISIL Collective is very useful for the teachers and the students. We have videos, PowerPoint. We have worksheet. You can download it anytime. It's free. Also, I used Kahoot. Also, IXL quizzes also for competition for with the students. So the first application that I use with ISIL Collective, quizzes, Kahoot, and IXL. Okay, it's very important for the students.
Great. And anyone, as we're wrapping up here a couple of minutes, feel free to share in the chat any other resources that you use, because again, this is kind of what I was hoping to do, to be able to share different ideas today. All right. The last thing I'd like to share with you is my idea. And one of the things, when I started studying Spanish in 1977, some of you might know this story, but my mother, her mother was from Mexico, and my mother's native language was Spanish. So when I went to high school, junior high school, I said, Mom, I want to study French. French just seems like a beautiful language. And my mom's eyes, tears started welling up in her eyes, because she thought, oh, don't you want to learn my language? And I thought, no. Well, yeah, yes, Mom. Yes, Mom. And so when I went into high school, my Spanish teacher was like this: you're doing everything the right way. Because my teacher would say, okay, everyone, open your book up to page 27. We're going to talk about the simple past tense. I mean, it was like, oh no, I can't do this for years. And so one of the things that I've tried to do over the years is think of situations. Now, all of you have been talking about a lot of great ideas of contextualizing, which I'm going to show you an example, making it real in their lives. And so what I tried to do is I thought, why not, as I'm teaching a grammar point, come up with situations so they can think about the situations, and then we can talk about them. So here's a situation that I've done. I often, with the student's permission, with their permission, if they allow, to use their pictures in a situation. So here is the situation. I'm going to read it to you. Here we go. Okay. So Randall, this is Randall. This is me, really, and this is my wife, really. This is my wife, Shirley. But here's the situation. I'm teaching students modals of past obligation. You should have, you could have, you ought to have. That type of grammar. I'm not talking about advice, you should go, you should study, but past. Now, this type of activity with talking about situation could be used at any level, but this is one example. So Randall, my wife and I got married, and Randall loves climbing. I love climbing outdoors in my free time. And when I got married, the other thing is I love climbing and I love grammar. And when I first got married, I gave, as a wedding present, I gave my wife 2 grammar books, to celebrate our love. Well, 2 weeks ago, Randall decides to go climbing. And when you go climbing, you should take ropes and a helmet and some gear. But the only thing Randall took was his grammar book. So he went out into the backcountry. He took his grammar book, and that's it. And unfortunately, Randall didn't tell anyone where he was going. He didn't leave a map, and he didn't take a phone because he wanted the experience of being in nature without any electronics. Unfortunately, as you can see, Randall doesn't look very careful here. Unfortunately, he broke his leg, and now he can't walk. And he's worried that a mountain lion or a bear will eat him tonight. So question, what could have or should have Randall done in this situation to have been better prepared for the trip? So in this particular case, you probably do something similar. Rather than teaching modals of past obligation, well, you should have, you could have, from the textbook. I often think about situations. And then as I do situations, I try to help students also learn the pronunciation of the grammar. So instead of should have or could have or ought to have, shoulda, coulda, and mighta. So I try to combine listening, pronunciation with situations to try to make my lessons a little bit more interesting. And this is what I could do, I think, in many types of situations. And if I'm encouraging teachers to look at pictures, the two websites I really like are Pexels or Pixabay. These are websites where you can use pictures free without attribution. They're a great collection of pictures. So my idea is, yeah, grammar is great. We've talked about projects today. We've talked about connecting form and use. I know that we've also talked about using grammar with different types of games and so forth. Nazreem, you talked about, well, in my classes, I use grammar for real situations and what they might encounter. And I think these are all great ideas. And so this is my idea, contextualizing into situations and combining the grammar with pronunciation. And most of my students say, Randall, it's not the grammar that's hard. It's the idea. Coming up with an idea is often the most difficult and I find most useful for students. So I want to, as we wrap up here today, I want to ask if any of you have any last final thoughts about using grammar in your classes before we end. Suggestions or comments for any teachers out there that might be watching today.
I would like to say something.
Yes, go ahead, Josue.
All right. I do love the question you asked at the beginning, like what it comes to our mind when we hear or we think about the word grammar. So sometimes students are like, they have like a bad perception about grammar. It's
A
boring,
bad perception or
difficult,
idea, right?
and stuff like that. So our responsibility as teachers is to make them love grammar by doing different things, different games, different ways that we can teach grammar, not just like go to the classroom, write on the board, all right, so this is the structure, these are the rules, learn them, and that's it. So we as teachers, we have to see which things we can do so that our students can get engaged with grammar and they can absolutely learn it.
Yeah, so keeping them engaged, helping them learn, helping them find a purpose in everything we do in the classroom, I think makes a great difference.
Can I add something, please?
Absolutely, Isra.
Before coronavirus, I was teaching my students by acting, how to act and create sentences, like one of them subject, the other one verb, the other one object, and how to move from how we can create the sentence. If we don't have subject, we can call other reference to be a subject or a verb, or by acting at the first time. After that, after coronavirus, I asked them in online learning to discuss between each other how, like, I need one subject. They can call each other. Who's the subject? Like, if is it a pronoun or noun? Like this way, in online learning or at the classroom, by acting, real discussion with each other.
Great. So
Okay.
active, getting them engaged in any way we
Yeah.
can.
They love to move, especially young students. They love to move. They want to move around each other and find the part of speech as a subject, verb, or object, or any kind of any topic.
Right.
I-
Well,
Could I add something really?
sure. Why not, Carolina?
It's just a little thing that I do with my students is that don't be afraid to act a little bit more silly around them. Like I call my grammar, like the grammar parts. For example, when we have to see in the simple present that am, is, are, and I am. Instead of doing that, I do something for them that everyone at the place I work at knows me for, is that I call los tres chiflados when I use in Spanish, but in English it would be like the three stooges. Yes, I think so.
What?
I call los tres chiflados the three
The Three
stooges.
Stooges. They were three
Yeah,
people, a
I
group
use
of
them.
comedians.
I use them like but I use I am, you are, and then los tres chiflados attacking again. We have he's, she's, it is. So when I ask them, okay, but this is a chiflado. Like Pablo is a chiflado. Oh yeah, is. So they remember it in a fun way.
Cool.
So don't be afraid to call like to give them names to the grammatical structures. Now that Isra mentioned that, is something that honestly is one of the best things I've tried.
Well, great. Well, thank you, everyone.
Can I add something,
Yes,
Randall? Can I
Mesa,
add something?
please. Please.
Now, I want to share an experience that I have personally tried. I want to tell teachers that they can connect their classes with all parts of the world. I tried this last year. You know that during the outbreak of the corona, I tried to connect my class with one of the French hospitals. My brother was working in France, so I decided to connect my class in the UAE with the hospital in France. So my students got the experience of talking directly with the doctors working with treating the patients of the coronavirus. So I think that despite of the geographical distances between the UAE and France, it was a lovely and unforgettable experience for my class. And I think that they will keep this memory in their minds forever, because they will always think that their class was connected with another class in another part of the world while they were sitting in their own home. So I think that teachers might try this if they know somebody in other country. But I don't know whether it works with us here in this group, because you know that we have a time difference between each others. But I think that it will be a lovely idea.
Thank you, Mesa. I think that's a great way to wrap up of that idea of human connection, of reaching out beyond the boundaries of our own countries, our own languages, our own cultures, and meeting together. And I think today, we've been able to hear people from different environments sharing different ideas, but with the same goal of helping our students learn not only grammar, but about the world around us. So I want to thank everyone for participating in this broadcast today. I look forward to joining others in the future on a similar event. And so we want to say goodbye for now, and to stay connected with others who need your help and your support. And that we will say goodbye for now.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Randall. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so hang on.